Back in 2016, I was on the bottom of the corporate ladder at a full-time consulting internship. It was a 9 to 6 or a 9 to 10 p.m. or a 9 to 2 a.m. kind of situation. Coincidentally and completely randomly, that's also when I started seriously considering any other option other than embarking on the 9 to 5 corporate ladder, and lo and behold, my knight in shining armor rode in freelancing. But being the type A over-worrying, risk-averse person that I am, I was ultra skeptical that freelancing could work for me. Nobody in my family or friend circles had done anything outside of the traditional path. I had no clue if it was even realistic. I've been told growing up that freelancing was unsustainable, unstable, financially risky, etc., 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 and that the only way to achieve success and happiness and all good things in life was at the top of the mystical 9 to 5 ladder. So I was very hesitant, but boldly empowered by this voice screaming in my head, OMG, anything else, anything but this. I will take anything but this. So I decided to give it a go. Now, I'm not a quit your job willy-nilly, cross your fingers it works out, if it's meant to be, it will be kind of person. I am the buffer of your risk, make a safety net for my safety net, control every variable I can get my hands on type of person. So I decided to give freelancing a go on the side of my 9 to 5 to test its validity before making that full commitment. Now, almost 6 years later, I've worked with 40 plus freelance clients, have been able to slow travel while freelancing full time, hit 6 figures as a freelancer, and even started my own digital business on the back of my experience as a freelancer. Now that I've established to myself why I'm qualified to talk about this, imposter syndrome, let's talk through the 7 steps I took to begin freelancing on the side of a 9 to 5 full-time gig. And the last step, it's always the last step, of this video is the most important one and the one that actually got me to begin and to take that first step, even though I was petrified. So make sure you stay tuned for that one. Hey, it's Dea, freelancer, digital business manager, most recently entrepreneur. And as always, you can find sections on the play bar below if you want to skip to a certain part of the video. Your time is precious, so take what you need. And if you want to watch this on 2x, I won't be offended at all. Okay, let's dive in. First things first, and I know this step is kind of like a Dea seriously step, but I have to say you need to be clear on why this even matters to you. Why does exploring freelancing matter? Who cares about this? If you don't care, you're not going to stick with it enough for anything to actually happen. Why could this be life-changing for you? Is it freedom, more time with cats or dogs or your kids, sipping margaritas on vacay while making that bread, creating your own work schedule, deciding what you want to work on, deciding who you want to work with? What is it for you? For me, it was getting to grocery shop at 1 p.m. when nobody was at the store. It's like inner peace for me. Making money while cat sitting around the world, diversity of fun tasks, having way more growth and income potential on my own than in a structured ladder, not having to ask for permission to take time off, being able to see my family in Taiwan for months at a time, which I would have never been able to do in a traditional situation. The list goes on. So what is it for you? Get it tattooed on your arm so you see that reminder all the time. If you can't swing, full sleeve tattoo, I understand. Then writing it on a piece of paper and sticking it somewhere you'll see it also works just as well. How much we care and the effort we're willing to put in are directly proportional, so you need to remind yourself why you care and how much you care about the result to ensure that you're actually motivated enough and consistent enough to put in that effort. Write it down. Now, let's get realistic. You're working full-time, you're busy, you just want to chillax, have dinner, watch as many Netflix episodes as you can squeeze in before bedtime. I know, been there, done that, definitely relatable. So in order to give this a serious go, we have to figure out what is realistic for you to dedicate time-wise and make a plan on the back of that as our next step. So for me, what was realistic was setting some time aside on weekends and nights. So I spent about, I think, 2 hours every night looking for freelancing gigs and about 4 hours each on Saturday and Sunday doing this as well. Keep in mind, I started lower. I started with like 15 to 20 minutes a day and I slowly increased from there, which is what I recommend to you as well to make sure that that habit actually sticks in everything. And of course, please keep in mind the sacrifice of like evenings and weekends is temporary, right? This is just the initial startup stage. I don't work weekends and evenings now. Things sometimes just need a little extra push in the beginning to gain that traction and momentum before we can ease off the gas pedal. I also strongly believe it takes way more effort to begin than to maintain when it comes to freelancing. And in my experience, it was much, much harder to get going in the first few months than it was in the years that followed. Things kind of unravel much smoother after you start, basically. So what can you realistically plan for yourself? Realistic means, yes, it is a sacrifice of some free time, sure, but it's not such a sacrifice that you want to cry all the time. So how much time can you set aside and for how long to give this a full go? It can be as little as 15 minutes a day to start. Like I said, you don't need to move mountains. And I would recommend giving it a full go for probably at least a few months. It took me, just to share some numbers, it took me 20 job proposals and a few weeks before I landed my first freelance client. And then it took me another few weeks and 20 more job proposals to land my second client. Okay, so yeah, 15 minutes, if that seems doable, make that time commitment, put it on a calendar, which days and exactly where is this going to happen. Make it a non-negotiable commitment to begin and write it down, say it out loud, put that intention out into the world. You can also write it in the comments so that that intention is sitting with us where we will guard it and keep it safe. Next up is your safety net. How much do you want saved before you make the full step over? I personally love to assume the worst case scenario. I'm very good at it, always have been. I am an exceptionally skilled catastrophizer. So I wanted to have at least 6 to 12 months savings saved up just in case. Some people might recommend less, but I like to be extra super duper sure. So I would recommend that you begin saving whatever you're able to for a little while. And if you do start picking up a few freelance clients here and there, that can also help you get that extra income to put away to reach this goal too. Calculate out your safety net goal and get clear on what that number is for yourself. So you kind of had that in the back of your mind of like, this is the number I want to achieve so that I can have that safety net. And when I have that safety net clear, then I can make that jump whenever it is time to do so.
So as an example, if you have $2,500 in monthly expenses and you want to have 6 months of savings, then that would be setting aside $15,000 as a safety net goal.
So write that number down so you have clarity on that. Next up, we need to consider what is enough proof of concept for yourself, aka what is enough proof to prove to yourself that you can do this realistically. And I would recommend having a dollar amount that you aim for that once you hit it shows you, hey, this is possible. You're making this with just a few hours a week. Imagine what you could do with more time.
So as an example, you might say, if I reach $500 a month as a freelancer working just 20 hours a month on the side of my 9-to-5, then that is enough proof of concept for me to give this a full go.
So for me, my goal, I wanted my freelancing income to just match what I was making at my internship, at least enough to cover my expenses, which at the time were pretty low, mostly just rent and food. We were living pretty frugally back then, so we could save more money and everything. So it was, for me, it was like, if I could make this amount of money from home, I would be a happy gal. And I know from there, I can always scale, obviously, and make more money, right? So what is enough proof for yourself? Not how much you would ideally dream like to make, because that can always come later. But for now, we just care about what is enough proof that this is realistic for you before you dive in. Know that number, write it down. Step 5 is to make your steps smaller. Most people make this entire process to be like a humongous leap. It does not need to be a humongous leap. If you buffer your risk enough, which we are doing via proof of concept and a safety net while still keeping that 9-to-5 income, it doesn't need to be this like blind, horrifying leap into the unknown. So take those small steps, tiny steps, whatever that looks like to move yourself forward. Even 15 minutes a day can go a super long way. It's how I made my 100 plus lesson course. 15 minutes every day, it adds up, Atomic Habits and all that. And personal story, for a long time, I didn't actually consider myself a very brave person. I thought a brave person was someone who takes those giant leaps, someone who quits their job, who jumps with no safety net. But I realized years later that being brave can also just come down to making the smallest of decisions in those moments where it matters most and taking those small steps, those tiny steps, right? So for me, a tiny brave step was just making an Upwork account. A tiny brave step was sending out a proposal to one job. A tiny brave step was turning on email notifications from remote job boards for freelancing gigs. So stop making this thing seem so big and overwhelming for yourself. It can be small. It should be small steps to start out with. So what are a few tiny steps that you can take in the coming weeks to move this goal forward? Write 3 to 5 of them down as well. Step 6 is crucial. Do not get caught in that perfectionism and overthinking trap. I hear from beginner freelancers all the time, I need to be clear on who my exact dream client is before I begin. I need a website before I begin. I need a perfectly aesthetic and coordinated Instagram feed before I begin. I need a pricing strategy. I need a full business plan. I need to know what my precise niche is. I need to be the ultimate fighting champion at this skill before I begin. No, you don't. None of that matters right now. Do not create fake hurdles for yourself on this journey. You don't need to know everything before you begin. You're not supposed to know everything before you begin, and you can't know everything before you begin. begin. So stop trying to control every variable, and believe me, I get wanting to do that, but I promise everything will unravel on its own the way it's meant to if you just start. One of my favorite quotes is, "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step," by Martin Luther King Jr. When I first made an Upwork account, I had no clue what would happen. So really trust in the process and just begin, even if you don't have full clarity on what's going to happen or how things are going to unravel. And side note, you may have some unsupportive people in your life who cause you to overthink as well. People might project their insecurities or fears onto you. They might make you feel bad for wanting to veer off the traditional path. And I have to tell you that if you have determined that this is important to you, you feel the sense of like, I need to do this deep in your gut, it literally does not matter what they think. This is your one life. Do not let other people choose what you do with your one life, right? Like, find people who get it. Join communities of people wanting to do the same as you, so you have that support coming from somewhere, because I know it's intimidating to do it on your own. And of course, we here on this channel are sending you mental kudos too, so you can pop in the comments and I'll send you some love if you're needing some of that support. Okay, now this is the final and most important step. This is the step that actually got me going, because people also ask me all the time, like, Dea, you say you're so risk averse. You say it, but so how did you actually decide to make the leap, like when it actually came time to do so? I made the leap because eventually it was riskier for me not to make the leap. I was so deeply unhappy, unfulfilled in my current state and in the future I saw for the next 40 years that I felt it was riskier for me to stay in the conventional path. So honestly, ask yourself, what is the opportunity cost of not doing this? So opportunity cost is defined by Investopedia as the potential benefits that an individual misses out on when choosing one alternative over another. So what is the opportunity cost of not trying this, of not giving it a full go? What are you sacrificing by resisting this pull towards trying something different? Because I know firsthand it's intimidating. I know it's scary, but for me it was scarier to consider the alternative of doing something that felt unbearable and suffocating to me for the next 40 years, aka my entire adult life, right? So what do you lose if you do not try your best? And I personally believe everyone reaches a point of no return when they realize like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And that's when you actually begin taking those action steps, those small steps you need to make this happen for you. And you can do this, right? Trust in your ability to figure things out and your ability to be creative, to problem solve, to truly go after what you want to the best of your capabilities. This is my sternest look. Trust in you. And if you want to be held accountable, share your first tiny step with us. What first teeny tiny step are you going to take? Are you going to look for one freelancing job platform and make an account? Are you going to spruce up your resume for 15 minutes? Are you going to write an email draft to reach out to a business friend to mention something you can help them with? Just one tiny task to begin. What is that first small step going to be? Let us know. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Okay, bye.